Hello and welcome to another tutorial. This is a follow-up on our previous discussion where I was showing you a couple of networking options that you have with Docker. That was a gray board discussion, and now I'm following up with a couple of hands-on sessions where I will demonstrate each of those presented scenarios, configurations. So let's start with a quick recap. Let's go to my gray board here. And this was the diagram that I've shown you for the networking options. And these are the networking options right here, the NAT, the routing, and the bridging. I will discuss today the first option, NAT, also called port publishing. I know that is the most popular configuration, and many of you might be very familiar already with this setup, but I hope I will provide some new and maybe useful information for you. So stick around. I changed the IP addresses in here. I put this 107, which is the IP address of my actual Docker host, and this .1 is the physical machine where I'm running the Docker host as a virtual machine. I will show it to you in a moment. This is just to have some familiarity with the IP addresses I'm going to use in the demonstration. So that being said, let's go to the console and start typing a couple of things. First of all, this is my physical machine, the one that I'm recording this session actually. So these are my interfaces, and this one right here is the interface that will be used to communicate with the Linux Docker host. And the Linux Docker host, I will connect right now to the Linux Docker host, which is running on this IP address, the same as the one from the diagram. I'm connected to it right now. Let's also see in here what interfaces do I have. This is the connection with the outside world from the Linux Docker host, and this is a bridge interface that is used by Docker containers, and the Docker containers will have IP addresses from this class. Let's display the Docker networks. Do not confuse Docker networks with actual network interfaces that I have in the system. Docker networks are referring to, in some way, to these interfaces. In my case, the Docker bridge network, which is using the bridge driver, is referring to this interface. If you inspect this Docker network, inspect this network bridge, you will see that the name of the bridge interface that is using is this one, Docker 0. Right. So in order to show you this, I just have to create a container and use port publishing option. So let's do this right now. Docker container run. I will remove it after use. Let's give it a name, port publish, and use the port publishing option. I will use a fancy port 1800. Traffic will be forwarded to container to the port 80. The container, this particular container is a container of mine, routerology phpine with this tag. You can find it in Docker host if you want to use it. This container, it runs an Apache server and also has a test site, some lorem ipsum content, just to have something to play with. And the Apache server is listening on port 80 inside the container. That's why I need to send traffic to port 80 inside the container. So this should be enough. Let's check if the container is started. And I can see here the information about the port publishing. I can see that port 1800 on my local host is forwarded to port 80 inside the container, port 80 TCP. And the same here for IPv6. Let's inspect the container, Docker container inspect port publish, and see what IP I have for the container. I have this one with 0.2 in the last octet. Let me show you. Let's check if this container is actually running, and the port publishing is also functioning correct. 192, 168, 122, 107, and the port would be 1800. And as you can see, the container is running all right. Let's go back to the console right now. And let me show you a couple of other things about how this is working. The translation is done by IP tables. Actually, is done by the by a kernel feature called net filter, which is controlled by IP tables. So I need to use IP tables to inspect this configuration. Actually, I need to do it with sudo, and I'm displaying the NAT table. I need to use this flag -t to select the NAT table, because if I'm not using this, it will display the filter table by default. So I'm doing a list, and I'm not going to solve names. And these are my rules, my configuration of the NAT table right here. And because I'm discussing about destination NAT, the port publishing, I need to look in the pre-routing chain, which has this only one rule, which matches almost any traffic and send it to a custom chain called Docker. And this custom chain called Docker is down here. And if you are like me and you know a bit about IP tables, you already have a question mark about this first rule, because the traffic or the traffic which I have tested is not matching on this first rule. It's actually matching as expected actually on the second rule, and the destination NAT is happening from port 1800 to the container IP, which is this one, as I've shown you, to port 80. So why is not this rule matching? This is actually not such a big mystery, because you're not seeing all the information. So if I'm adding verbose to the listing command, now I can see the answer. I have also here an interface specified for this rule. So in order for traffic to match for on this first rule, it needs to be inbound on this interface, and my traffic is not entering on this interface, is entering on this interface in my case and the way I have shown you. So that's why the match is on this second rule. So this, I think, should be pretty much it about this this scenario. I will follow up with a second session about routing. I hope this has been informative and useful for you, and I'm waiting for you in the next session. Bye bye.